This is The Business Experience Show, where we connect those who want to know more about digital marketing, social media, and business strategy with entrepreneurs who are succeeding in today's marketplace. Follow our blog, join our online network, or connect with us at thebusinessexperienceshow.com. And now, your host, Lisa Caprelli.
Welcome to the Business Experience Show. I'm Lisa Caprelli, your host. Also here with me is Brian Gapps. Tom Leykis has been a prominent presence on radio since the mid-'80s in places like Miami, Boston, and Phoenix. In 1994, his Los Angeles-based show, The Tom Leykis Show, began national syndication. He can now be heard worldwide via blowmeuptom.com and other outlets. You may love him or hate him, but you usually cannot stop listening to him. Welcome, Tom Leykis.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Tom. For those who do not know your story, let's go back to early 2009. You had just renewed a long-term contract for your radio show, and then what happened?
The radio station, after the economy fell off a cliff, decided to change formats from the talk radio format, which is known as an expensive format to operate. You have to have at least 3 people for every show, whereas if you play music, you can have one disc jockey touching a touch screen. So it's a lot more economical. Whether it's more profitable, that's up for debate.
And then for you, that meant you had just signed a contract, and you stuck to that.
I did. I had a 5-year contract with CBS Radio, and after a year and a half, they flipped the format of the station. I imagine I could have gone to CBS and said, you know what? I want to go work somewhere else. Let's make a deal. But I decided to instead be paid out as the contract specified, and then to use my time productively doing something else.
And you've had nothing but good things to say about that agreement.
Everybody doesn't honor agreements the way CBS did. CBS was great to us in every way. And if they would have me, I'd go back and work for them again in any capacity. I really enjoyed being part of CBS. It's just that they changed the format of that station, and these things happen in the radio business.
Going from getting paid under a contract to working for yourself is a major decision that many people have had to address in recent years.
Well, there's a reason for that. Many big businesses since 2007 have suffered declines, or they have suffered because of problems on Wall Street, or they have suffered, in the case of the radio business, it has suffered, we like to compare it to the Hostess Twinkie. The Hostess Twinkie is the #1 selling snack food in the world. It's iconic. And yet, as we speak here right now, you cannot buy a Hostess Twinkie. And the reason is because the company that put out that product had been merged and acquired and had engaged in a series of cost-cutting measures, hoping to achieve, as they say, efficiencies when they merged these companies together. They had some labor problems, and you went from having a company that was making a profit and making the #1 snack food in the world to the company going around saying, we can't make money selling a Hostess Twinkie. And it's the same thing with audio content from the radio space. We had a program that was frequently one of the top-rated shows in the afternoon in Los Angeles. And then when the economy fell off a cliff in 2007 and 2008, many of the advertisers were cutting their budgets and were not advertising on talk shows or music radio or anywhere. And so a number of radio stations had to engage in cost-cutting. And the fact is that you could have a very popular product like a Hostess Twinkie, and yet because of corporate issues, they can't monetize the product no matter how popular it is.
And you could have simply taken an early retirement, enjoyed your time, enjoyed your ranch.
Did that give you opportunity to look at things differently, and what am I going to do now, and how can I change and be innovative and adapt to the times?
Well, I'll be honest. I lived at my ranch for that whole time, and I spent the first year doing absolutely nothing, just enjoying my time, because in all the years I've been doing radio, I never had that time.
So I have to say, what was that like for you? Because I know people that retire and it's not a forced retirement, and obviously you could have made that choice. What did that do for you in deciding what I'm going to do now?
Well, keep in mind that college professors and others get to take sabbaticals,
Right.
And they get to go study in another country, or they get to go walk the Appalachian Trail or whatever. In my case, I spent some time doing nothing, and then after clearing my head, I had an epiphany. I realized that the online streaming of content had improved to the point where it would be possible to create a radio station that existed on the web only, with no transmitters, no satellite dishes, no physical plant. And so what we decided to do is engage in a bunch of experiments to see if we could put content on 24 hours a day and have it be reliable like a radio station. You flip on the switch and it's there. So we figured that out. Since I could not be on the air because I was being paid to work for CBS and they had no assignment for me. So we did it with music formats. We started with one, and we went as far as 3 different music formats where we created playlists, and we had the production that goes in between the songs, and we had the stream and the servers that would operate that. And we found out that we were able to operate a 24/7 stream that sounded exactly like a radio station, if not better, but it didn't require all of the capital investment and the physical plant of a traditional radio station. And so the next step was to decide whether I wanted to go back to radio, doing a radio show, or whether I wanted to take what I had learned through my experiments and do my own show that way, where it would appear and you could hear it on a smartphone or a tablet or a PC or a Mac. You could hear it in the dashboard of your car, just like you listen to radio, except it wouldn't be a big company or a lot of capital expended to do it. You know, we now can produce my show for a decimal point of what it cost to produce before. We figured out many ways to do this very economically.
And as I recall, you used to talk about how personality-based radio was certainly more proprietary than music-based radio.
Yeah.
And you've certainly helped created that for yourself. It's interesting you got involved in the music side with the music channels because that was something that was easily accessible and probably used a lot of that information to relaunch.
Well, a lot of what we learned was technical. My concern in starting a stream was, would it be reliable? Because before the audio streams on the internet became as common as they have become, there was a time, if you recall back to Mark Cuban's venture, which was called broadcast.com, when you would try to listen to one of these streams and it would stop and start and buffer, and it was just not reliable. It just so happened around 2009 when I left my job, that was when 3G was everywhere and 4G was on the horizon, and suddenly it was becoming feasible to listen to a stream of a radio station, whether it comes from radio, whether it comes from somebody's basement. It was becoming feasible to do that and to have it be reliable.
And not only that, but people started walking around with smartphones.
Right.
And when you came back on air last year, I had just purchased a new car, which came with a technology package. I just Bluetoothed my cell phone right into my car audio system, and boom, Tom Leykis was on the air in my car. I didn't miss a beat.
Internet is working its way into cars. I drive a Tesla Model S, and you'll be seeing this in the future, but I have this today in my dashboard. I've got the TuneIn application, and I've got 3G internet service in my dashboard, and I can listen to my stations on an even playing field with AM and FM radio. On the screen in the Tesla, you see AM stations as presets, FM stations, and then TuneIn, the TuneIn app, and our stations are all on TuneIn, and so they all play in an equal playing field. And what that means, and it's going to be a problem for the radio business, is that if anybody can create compelling content and have an equal chance to compete, radio's going to have to get better at what they do, or they're going to start seeing erosion of their audience in a big way.
And I was going to say, it's not even a level playing field. It's actually perhaps a higher playing field. The marketing usually involved with people who are involved in digital space, they're much better at it. The content is searchable. The text that goes along with that is usually more descriptive.
Well, not only that, but you have the ability to make the sound as good as you want. Many radio stations compress their signals. It's a technical term, but what it really means is when a station is signal challenged, as we say, it doesn't get into the whole radio market. What many radio stations will do to improve their signal is make it louder by using a process called compression. And so they can do a lot more with a weak signal by making a very loud product. Many times when you make the signal louder, you lose things like stereo separation. It can become very fatiguing to listen to. But for many radio stations, it's important to get their coverage area to be as wide as possible. On the internet, we don't have to do that because somebody listening in Tokyo gets the same exact signal as somebody listening in Covina. And so the result is we can make a better quality signal than radio. And as a matter of fact, two of our music formats are in 128K digital sound, which is the equivalent of a CD. It's a CD audio.
And Tom, give our audience the metrics of your show.
Our show reaches over 800,000 connections a month, about 170,000 unique listeners a month, which is more than the cumulative audiences of 7 L.A. Orange County radio stations.
Hats off to you. You started a year ago, right?
Started on April 2nd, 2012 is when the show started. The audience has gone up approximately 14% since we started seeing our metrics back in September. So we're talking about, about 8-9 months, a 14% increase in the audience. And our website also has increased metrics ever since we started doing the show. We've got approximately 70,000 unique visitors to our website every month as well.
And what prompted you? You've got the technology worked out, and beyond that, it had reached a point where you realized the many great things you could do with it these days. But what prompted you personally to get back on air?
The excitement of being able to do something different that is cutting edge, and I do believe this is where the audience is going.
Absolutely, especially the new generation. They're on the internet. I don't even personally go on to TV. I do everything on the internet. It's watch, play, listen to what you want on demand. So you're ahead of the game. It's like rebuilding a business foundation, and you weren't scared. You said, let's try it.
No. Because the thing is, first of all, the radio business is what I know. I know it really well. I know the mechanics of it. But also, I did have those 3 years to learn the internet business, to learn metrics, to learn technology and what is possible, and to figure out how we can take radio to another level. We don't call it radio, really. We call it audio content because our content is on a variety of platforms, and almost none of them are radios.
Last week, I was listening to your show on my smartphone, and I left my car, and then it was handheld. And I'm walking along, and I thought, God, my neighbors, I might be disturbing them. And then I had a deja vu moment of being a kid walking around with a transistor radio.
Right. It's just like that. In fact, I frequently carry my smartphone in my front pocket and listen. I don't use earbuds. I listen like it's a transistor radio from when I was a child.
So what message do you have to business owners who are not adapting to change? I come across so many business owners. They've been around for 10 years, 20 years. They're experienced in what they do, and they're afraid of technology and changing it.
Well, you have two ways to go. You either embrace the future and see the potential benefits and by the way, profits that exist by adapting to the new technology. Or you sit there and wait and you become MySpace, or you become Polaroid, or you be Kodak. There's a lot of companies you can name that were afraid of change. Also, the entire newspaper business. And I would hate to see anybody listening who owns a business get left behind in a stampede. And I know many entrepreneurs who brag to me, I don't even have an email address. And folks, let me tell you, if you don't learn about that stuff, I don't care if you're 55 or 60 years old and you think you're going to leave that to your son or your daughter to do for you, you've got to get with the program because things are changing every hour of every day. And with every change comes not something to be feared. It comes opportunity. And we are seeing opportunity. Our business is in the black less than 2 years after we started doing my show. Now, we're not making a fortune, but all our expenses are paid. All of our expenses, I employ 5 people total. And we have this physical space where we do our production, we do our shows, and
you're
all the
building
gear.
a business.
And we're building a business.
Right.
And many people have to wait 5 years to see a break-even point.
Yep.
So I'm a big supporter of embracing new technology and seeing what it can do for your bottom line.
It's great. We're talking with Tom Leykis of the Tom Leykis Show. When we come back, I want to talk to you about some of your content, some of your audience P1s, the way you handle those, things like that.
Cool.
We'll be right back. We're talking with Tom Leykis from the Tom Leykis Show. For more information, you can go directly to his website, blowmeuptom.com. I'm Lisa Caprelli, Brian Gapps. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Business Experience Show on Angels Radio AM 830 KLAA. We are getting down to business every Sunday with shows like Road to Wealth, Missed Fortune Radio, Hardline with Will Bruzo, and the Business Experience Show, right here every Sunday on Angels Radio AM 830 KLAA.
Need investment strategies for family or business? Talk to Scott Shire at Quintessential Financial or visit betterfinancialfuture.us. Learn some tricks of the wealthy and apply them to your assets. Learn how to better secure your savings with IRAs. Find out about tax shelters and leveraging your insurance policies. Talk about college planning now. Heard regularly on Business Radio, our financial tips can help you find a new BFF. Better Financial Future. Visit betterfinancialfuture.us. That's betterfinancialfuture.us.
If you've been wanting more leads, more results through social media, search engine optimization, video SEO, a better web presence, The Business Experience Show and Lisa Caprelli can help you. Contact us today at thebusinessexperienceshow.com. That's thebusinessexperienceshow.com.
This is The Business Experience Show, where we connect those who want to know more about digital marketing, social media, and business strategy with entrepreneurs who are succeeding in today's marketplace. Follow our blog, join our online network, or connect with us at thebusinessexperienceshow.com. And now, your host, Lisa Caprelli.
Welcome back to the Business Experience Show. I'm Lisa Caprelli. With me is Brian Gapps. We're talking with Tom Leykis, the Tom Leykis from the Tom Leykis Show. His website is blowmeuptom.com. Tom, right before break, we were talking about businesses and being relevant and taking advantage of innovation today. And thank you for adding to that, because that's our message every week.
Well, I got to tell you, I've been having conversations about this. I've appeared on a number of panels recently. And a lot of people are afraid of social networking. And what I say is it's free to you. Does it really matter if Facebook is here in 5 years or if it does a MySpace in the future and something replaces it? Why do you care? It costs you nothing to participate, and you're definitely going to get a return on your zero investment. The only investment you're going to make is to have a human being to write that content.
And content today is king.
Of course it is. You have to have something compelling. Now, I'm going to tell you an example of social networking gone wrong. Recently, I was in Paso Robles at a wine event, and at the wine event, it was held out at a winery. It was a 90-degree day in central coast of California, and they had a big white tent in the middle of this winery, and they had outside, because this was not normally a place where people went, they had a series of porta potties outside. And when I went to visit the outhouse, there was a sign on the outside of the porta potty that said, "Follow us on Facebook."
Holy cow.
Now, I don't know what kind of breaking outhouse news I can expect to get if I follow them on Facebook. Don't be foolish. Don't embarrass yourself like that. By the way, I went to that person's Facebook page. They had 47 likes.
Oh.
47.
I can't believe you went to the Facebook page, Tom.
I had to see who's following a porta potty Facebook page. So there were some businesses that might not be right for social networking because what kind of good news could you put out there?
New content.
10% off on what? But I do think that for most businesses, social networking is a must. You got to be in the thick of it, and you've got to have a person who is your social media person who writes that content for you. And yes, that's your cost. But I think it's a very low cost compared to the return you get on that investment.
And you're adapting to what people want today. It's no longer about selling or pitching. It's about informing me. If you don't come off as being authentic, people are going to know it right away.
By the way, a great way to do damage control for your business, if you get into trouble of some kind, the ability to communicate directly with your customer, to let them know. If you remember that Tylenol scare years ago, and all the emergency PR that Johnson & Johnson had to do for that. Imagine if they had Twitter and Facebook to explain what had happened and what they were doing next. And it's a great opportunity, even if you've got bad news for your company, to be able to get ahead of the curve.
And you've been ahead of the curve, even with your prior radio show incarnation. You seem to have left with the website, was your property, the email database. You kept in contact with your P1s, even during your hiatus. You did a really good job of that.
And that's the thing I tell people, is that you must have your own email addresses. You must have your own Facebook page. You must have your own website. And you have to find some way to make sure that you have at least a parallel universe where all of your own websites and Facebook pages and Twitter pages exist.
Now, did you protect your brand years ago? You know, there are fake celebrity profiles online, and didn't you do a purging of that at some point?
Well, here's what I did, and I'd recommend it to people whose name is their brand name. I registered my name as a federal service mark. It's federally protected. And when my show went off the air, a wise guy who thought he did a pretty good impression of me started a website called Leykis.com, in which he produced what were purported to be my podcast, used my name, and then was selling subscriptions to it. What he didn't know was that I was prepared for people who do that kind of thing, like roaches coming to your sugar bowl. I prepared to drop many pounds of paper at his front door, and we put him out of business because we could. Your brand is everything, and I protect my brand. By the way, anyone who is skimping in this era of intellectual property, skimping on having a good attorney, keeping an eye on your service marks, your trademarks, your patents, whatever you've got, please, even if you've got a small business, you don't lose money by having great attorneys, great accountant, people to watch out for your intellectual property. Intellectual property is more valuable today than ever.
Good advice.
Since you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, many people talk to me about wanting to start a business because I've started a business and they want to do it. And here's what I hear from people. They say things like, I'd love to own a flower shop. And I say, have you ever worked at a flower shop?
Restaurant, retail store.
You ever worked at a Starbucks? Really? Have you ever done that? And what's interesting to me is how many people want to own a business, don't want to do any of the dirty work involved.
So much hard work.
McDonald's. Now, everybody knows you can't just buy a McDonald's franchise. You have to agree to attend Hamburger University in Des Plaines, Illinois, to learn how to sweep the floors at McDonald's, how to make a French fry, how to make a hamburger, because at McDonald's, and they've been so good at what they do, that they know that if the guy who buys that franchise can't do every job of everybody there, you're likely to fail. And in my case, I have done every job in my business. I've been a phone screener, a producer. I have been an intern. I have edited tape. I've done everything you could possibly do. So when I went into the business, I needed to learn the things where I was lacking. I needed to learn more about bookkeeping. I needed to learn about QuickBooks, for example, because I'm running a small business, and QuickBooks is how I do it. I didn't know how to do that automatically when I went in, so I took some of my time, and I learned how to do my own books. What I tell people is you have to be willing to do every job. And everybody who's here, all the guys who work on my show in my studio, I've done their jobs. I've been a producer.
Nothing's beneath you, and they probably respect you more for that.
Sometimes I have to jump in when these guys are not available.
Right.
I have to do things that you might think I would think are beneath me.
Right.
I have people here in Burbank have seen me come into the Burbank Power and Water to put a deposit down. So they can turn the lights on in this place. I've been to Costco to buy toilet paper to stock the bathroom here. The point is,
Tom, you're human.
When you're yeah, but you know what? A lot of people think you're a diva and that you're not willing to do the dirty work.
When I called to book the show, you answered the phone, and I was a little flabbergasted. I was like, Tom, okay, and then
I answered the office phone.
Yes.
I did and do. And that's my point.
I always have at all my businesses, and people would be like, I'm getting to talk to you, Lisa, and I'd be like, hey, how are you? But you know what? The people that you do get to talk to, obviously you can't everyone, they remember that, and they actually become more loyal to you because you're on their same playing field.
Look, I'm a human being. I'm reachable. But the point I make is that so many people want to start businesses, and they think what they're going to do is they're going to hire a bunch of kids and work for $10 an hour, and they're going to do the floral arrangements, and they're going to run the register. And how can you tell people this is your job unless you know how to do the job? There's not a job in this place that I have not learned how to do it myself first before I assigned it to someone else.
Tom, you did something a couple of months ago that took a lot of courage, and it's something I've heard Lisa recommend over and over to people, and that is you asked for help. You sent an email to your listeners talking straightforward about the business.
My listeners helped me create my business plan. Because I asked them specific questions. In the case of our show, when we started, we didn't know if it was going to be a live show or a podcast. The listeners wanted a live show like what I had done before. Then we had to figure out, all right, we can't do this for free, so how are we going to pay for the cost of doing business? At one point, we talked about charging a subscription to listen to the live show. Well, they didn't like that idea. But they didn't mind the idea of paying for a podcast where they could listen on demand because, as we explained, the podcast has certain expenses attached to it. Someone to be the curator of the content. You need a storage facility to store all your hours of content. You need bandwidth, people to be able to stream that content or download it. So, obviously, we're going to charge you for that because there's an expense to us that the listener can, they understand that there are expenses involved in that don't exist for other things we might do. So the listeners help me shape the business model here, which is we charge people $110 a year to listen to our podcast library, but the live stream of our show 24/7 is free.
But you appealed to your listeners recently. You said, look, here's the business model. Here's how it's working. I need you to step up and take a look at this if you want to continue the show.
I'm going to tell you what I did. I sent an email to everybody on the list. You're on my list, right? I sent an email to everybody on the list. I said, hey, I've got news for you. We have not turned a profit yet. And at some point, if we don't break even, I'm going to stop doing the show. So it's up to you. If you don't care, no skin off my nose. I'll go back to my ranch and enjoy the time.
And he showed it to me, and I was like, I liked that was authentic. You weren't trying to be bigger than you are. You're admitting that you're building a business and you're inviting the world, which is what social media is about.
And you're real about your numbers.
Right. Everybody can see our numbers. Everybody can see our revenue numbers. Everybody can see our listener numbers. Everybody can see our metrics for our website. We have nothing to hide, and I really find that you get more business by being transparent about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And along those lines, your listeners responded to your request as well.
We received, and we were very open about it, $67,000 in podcast subscriptions in a 6-week period. $67,000. Which was a huge amount to come in such a short period of time.
Right, and email, because you did the right thing and collected emails over the years.
Right. But again, had I just, been proud and said, oh, everything's going great over here, that would never have happened. That is the reason we're in the black today is because I fessed up and I said, look, we'd love to be breaking even, but right now we're not at that point yet. And we're going to get to a point where if I have to continue deficit financing this, we're going to call it a day.
Right.
And that type of openness helps with advertisers as well. They must embrace that.
Well, the advertisers know exactly what they're getting. They know exactly how many listeners we have. They know exactly how many impressions they're going to get. They know exactly how many unique listeners or unique visitors to the website there are. We have nothing to hide. We give you everything, every metric. You can look at it every which way.
And your content, let's talk about it quickly. It evolved over time, and
Sure.
that was part of a result of listening to your listeners as well. That's what they wanted.
Well, it's more than that. It's also being realistic about what your platform is. What is the target demographic of a radio station, or in coming to the internet, what are people going to expect to get that they didn't get on the radio?
What do you want to be known for?
Well, I don't think when I'm doing this, I'm trying to be known for anything. For me, it's personal satisfaction. Mm-hmm. And there is something personally satisfying about walking in every day and saying, this is my office. This is where I work. I can decide if it's brown or black or red or whatever it is, what the lighting is. My show, I can put it on at 3, or I can put it on at noon, or I can say we're taking the summer off and come back in September. I can do whatever I want to do. And with our intellectual property, we own all of it. And on top of that, we're about to hit 6 million listeners in September, 6 million without a transmitter.
Congratulations. And you can also go to Tom Leykis' website, blowmeuptom.com. What's the history behind that name?
Well, the history behind that name is years ago when I did an AM talk radio show about politics, if somebody called in who was particularly angry, nasty, racist, whatever, we would hit a button and a bomb would explode and would blow them up. Later on, when our show went to FM and it became more of an entertainment program, people knew that I used to press that button, and so they would call up at the end of the call, and they'd call up, and at the end of the call, they would say, oh, by the way, Tom, blow me up.
Right, which you hear all the time now.
Yeah, so it's blowmeuptom.com.
Well, thank you. Any last words for our listeners?
I just want to say that I know a lot of people who are in my position. Maybe they get a big paycheck, and then they're wondering what's going to happen when the big paycheck is gone. Well, where do I go? Do I quit? Do I learn a new trade? What do I do? The reality is, in a lifetime of working for other people, you've acquired a lot of skills that are transferable to new worlds. Being an entrepreneur is challenging. I work 7 days a week right now. It is not easy, just like mopping those floors at McDonald's. I know what those guys are going through. But the reality is it's richly rewarding. And you have to remember to never stop learning, never stop taking courses, never stop.
Stay humble.
Stay humble. Learn QuickBooks. That's a big recommendation for everybody.
And I know that it's not the topic of your show that gets a lot of the press, but you talk about this stuff a lot, and it's very popular, I know.
I do an hour called Money Monday, where it's mostly young guys calling in for advice on saving and investing, or starting a business, or buying a house, or whether to take out student loans. So, we get a lot of publicity for doing outrageous things, but in reality, we also perform a lot of services.
Thanks, Tom. I love your show. Brian loves your show. I know you reach a large audience. And like we said early on, some people love you, some people hate you. And I'm sure you cater to the ones who love you.
If it ever gets out of 50-50 where they love you and hate you, you got a problem.
Right. You're your own person. Thanks for being with us. Tom Leykis from the Tom Leykis Show. You can find more information on his website at blowmeuptom.com. I'm Lisa Caprelli. You're listening to the Business Experience Show on Angels Radio AMA 30 KLAA.